Okay, so when we last left off, I had just finished telling the story about looking at this Anselm Kiefer and the kids running in the room and kind of a parable about what it means to appreciate or not appreciate art. And my point was that although I can't completely change your mind, I can provide you with lots of information. One of my points, I guess, I can provide you with lots of information about background of artwork and about different ways of looking and seeing artwork, and that hopefully that will help you to appreciate artwork. Um, but in the end, the most important thing is just that you are willing to look and look with an open mind. So getting back to how art appreciation courses are structured, many of them fall into one of these kind of four basic types of structures. Many of them are organized around art historical content, so that they basically tell you the story of art in a very quick timeline, very cursorily, but quick, and but still, from the beginning of art to the 20th century type structure. Many of them focus on art mediums, right? Like different materials. So they teach you about drawing first, then they teach you about painting. Some teach you based on themes. There are lots of art appreciation courses that really kind of focus on, man versus nature and man, versus man or whatever kind of themes. Those are not my themes. Um, and also there are many that are organized, well, not many, that this is a much smaller category, number four, but there are art appreciation courses that are organized around the elements of art and the design principles. And so my course does all of those. It's kind of a hybrid course where it combines each of those. And I have reasons for that. One of the reasons is that I feel like um, each of these different contents is, or types of content, connects with different people, in different ways. And so I like to have kind of a variety because it gives more chances for people to find success. Some people may struggle in terms of remembering the dates for the art historical information, but they really excel at understanding the design principles and being able to apply them in an intelligent way. So that's one reason. And another reason is because I feel like those four different parts connect and they can't really be separated. So because they so intermingle with each other. And here's kind of a bit of a proof, which is let's look at this painting right here briefly. So this painting by Manet, and we could look at it in terms of art historical and historical content in terms of cultural history, right? In terms of cultural history, it's a painting that's about certain kind of changes that are happening to society as the Industrial Revolution is continuing to, modernize the society, make the society more a society set around spectacle and commercialism, and how that changes the role of different classes of people to each other. So you could see it that way. You could see it as being part of an art movement, the transition from realism to what later became called Impressionism. But you could also analyze this painting purely in terms of its medium. It's an oil painting, and it's an oil painting that's very much talking about um, particular kind of view about oil painting where making the marks very clear that they are marks on the surface of a canvas, not trying to hide that fact, trying to make it very kind of loose and gestural, um, is part of the point of oil painting. Not always, but in this particular approach to oil painting. So you could talk about it that way. You could talk about it in terms of design, its organization of colors and shapes. But it's really impossible to separate that discussion of design from a discussion of it as a painting. And it's impossible to separate those things from a discussion of Impressionism. So all of those things kind of link up and connect. So there's so much more we could talk about, and hopefully later on in the course we will talk more about this painting. But that gives you kind of a starting point to think about all the content that is contained in any particular image, and how by learning to think about art in these four different approaches, it really opens up your ability to be able to analyze the work of art. So the last thing I want to do, this is something I do for my art appreciation class in person when we're on campus, is the last thing is I show two works of art and I hand out some questions and I ask them to think about it for a bit and then we kind of discuss their answers, right? So which one is more understandable? Which one is more truthful? Which one is more real? And which one is more beautiful? So I'm going to show you the works of art in a second. And if you're smart, you're probably already thinking, well, there's probably some trickery to this question. And there is, to a degree. So I'm going to show you the works, and I want you to just think about it for a second. You don't get a lot of silence on a YouTube video. That was probably an almost uncomfortable amount of silence in a YouTube video. But you could take a little bit more time if you want. You could pause it and look at them just a little bit more and think about those 4 questions. Which one is more truthful? Which one is more understandable? Which one is more real? And which one is more beautiful? And so for the first 3, understandable, truthful, and real, people almost always tend to gravitate towards the Vermeer. I didn't put the information about the pieces here because I wanted you to really just see them on their own, right? But people tend to gravitate towards the Vermeer. They think it's automatically more understandable and automatically more real and automatically more truthful because it's a representational image, right? It's a representation of a person, but more than that, it's a representation of a view, right? And consider this as an important distinction, right? It's a representation of 2 people, but it's not really a representation of 2 people. It's a representation of a view of 2 people in that they're in a space, they have light on them, that space has a certain atmosphere and light and mood to it, and that affects how all the things interrelate, right? He is larger than her, the painter is larger than the model because he's closer to us, right? All of that is contained in the view. It's not essential qualities to the things, to the stuff, not an essential quality to him or to her. It is about the moment in the view, right? And so we think that those things are more real. But in a way, you can actually flip it and say that the Vermeer is way more less real because it's pretending to be a view of a certain moment when it's not. It isn't actually a view of a certain moment. It's a painting. It's a piece of wood with paint on the surface. The piece by Sol LeWitt is exactly what it claims to be. It's a set of instructions for how to make a work of art in a museum space by drawing certain points on a wall and drawing lines between those points. It tells you exactly what it is, and it never claims to be anything other than what it is. Whereas the Vermeer is the exact opposite of truthful in a way, in that it is all lies, right? There is no person here and there's no person there. There's no wall, there's no light, there's no tapestry hanging here. There's none of that exists. It is all just paint on a surface, right? So which is more truthful? A lot of it just kind of depends on how you evaluate truth and what you think, what kind of honesty is important to you. And which is more real? I think fundamentally, just from a philosophical point, they're equally real, right? They're both art objects that you could look at and hold in your hand if you were lucky enough, and they both, in a way, kind of represent something that exists outside of themselves, right? Which is that the Sol LeWitt represents a work of art that's made in a gallery space, even though it's right now not existing. And the Vermeer represents a view of a moment of an artist painting a model. But neither one of those things are the things they represent. So I would say they are both equally real. And which one is most understandable? Well, this is also kind of, we naturally think, of course, it should be the Vermeer. But when we really look at the Vermeer, if you study the art history about this particular painting, you will come to realize that there's a lot that we do know, right, about her being a model representing a muse, but which muse, we're not quite sure, right? And why is she holding that book, and what book is that, and what does the wreath on her head represent, and why is she wearing that outfit? It's not particularly a representative of any kind of sort of referencing classical styles of dress, but it's not a classical dress. Why is he wearing that outfit? I believe I read somewhere that it's like a slightly out of date outfit, like about 30 years kind of outdated So why is he wearing an old-fashioned outfit, and why is